this next flyweight matchup. It takes place between, I believe, actually, no, they're not Texas natives. One of them is, and that is Alden Coria, who comes in at minus 270. He's going up against Louis Gurule, who comes in at plus 230. Now, starting off on the Coria side, who came in on short notice back in September for his UFC debut, came in as a decent-sized underdog against Alessandro Costa, and he beat Costa in pretty much every aspect of mixed martial arts. Now, on paper going into that matchup, I thought Coria was the better striker, and that was obviously on display in the first round. In the second round, we saw the fight get into the grappling realm, not so much because of Costa, but because of Coria going for the takedown. And he did get reversed in a certain position, but eventually got back to that dominant position, and he was able to land some big ground and pound that really seemed to break Costa, which eventually led to that early third round finish for Alden Coria. I've had my eye on Coria for a little bit now. He, made his, had a couple fights with the LFA. Then he went over to Fury FC where he pulled off a few upsets and then eventually earned that shot to take on Costa in the UFC. And he made it be known, right? I believe Cameron Smotherman, maybe a training partner or somebody close enough to Coria, had a similar short notice UFC debut against Jake Hadley. If you guys remember that, Smotherman was a big underdog going into that fight, not just because of his debut, but also because of the short notice nature of it, but also because of the seeming grappling gap in his game. But he shut that down completely from Hadley, outstruck him, and won that fight dominantly. And Coria was able to do the same thing here against Alessandro Costa in September. Now he gets a full training camp in front of his home state, hoping to show out and show that he deserves to be at this level with that striking game. He is a training partner of flyweight champion Joshua Van, and I think we see similar patterns in their game where they love to strike, love to set up combinations, rip to the body, and eventually start going high and trying to knock their opponents out. But I was really impressed with Coria's takedown defense and his ability to keep fights standing, which is often where he's shown flaws earlier on in his career. I was going up against Louis Gurule, who is kind of underachieving in my opinion. A guy that I really expected to be successful in the UFC, but through 2 UFC starts, he's 0-2 now. He came onto the UFC scene by going through the Contender series. It was a very short notice matchup where he took on Nick Piccinini, who's a very high level wrestler, and we saw Gurule make him work a lot. And I think Gurule ended up winning that fight by split decision, earned his contract to the UFC, but now he's come up short in both of his fights. The first one was against Ode Osborne, who fights later on in this card. And we saw Gurule have a decent first round with good activity, good movement, good output. But in that second round, it seemed he got a little bit lackadaisical, threw a naked kick, got clipped by Osborne, who we know throws with big power. And from there, he was able to get the TKO finish. And I think that was a big learning experience for Gurule. Then he went up against Jesus Aguilar, a fight I believe Gurule came in as a minus 200 favorite, or even wider than that. But it seemed like Aguilar just had his number a little bit. In the first round, we saw Aguilar throw big heat, land big shots, and I think that was enough for the judges to score that round in his favor. Then in the second round, it was close, but I think that Gurule edged it out ever so slightly. And round 3 was quite competitive, which could have gone either way, but there was a moment at the beginning of that third round where Aguilar seemed to stumble and wobble Gurule, and I think that was the ultimate difference maker there. Gurule is a solid guy, trained originally out of Factory X, but it seems when there was that max exodus from Factory X, with guys like Brandon Royval and Alexander Hernandez leaving the gym, Gurule went with those guys. And he's been training alongside both those guys, ever since then. I think it's been about 2 years at this point in time. But Gurule's, he has a good coaching system around him. He has a good training camp around him. It's just about achieving his potential. Now, athletically speaking, he's not the most gifted. Skill-wise, maybe not the most gifted either, but it's just his ability to fight, his pace, his pressure, never settling for bad positions, constantly working, looking to break his opponents, and then eventually either finish them late or just go on to win fights by decision. Now it's about being a little bit more urgent. We saw him bring that urgency in the second and third rounds against Aguilar, but it still wasn't enough because of that slow start that he had. So I'm hoping that he's learned a few things from those first 2 fights that he can apply into this third one. But arguably speaking, this could be the toughest out of the 3 fights he's had in the UFC. Now, Coria at minus 270, makes some sense here. Obviously, the trajectory of both guys, Corea's on a winning streak, Gurule's on a losing streak. In terms of stylistically speaking, Coria is this faster, more powerful striker, and I think that's ultimately going to help him pick apart Gurule and win this fight on the scorecards. But I'm a little bit hesitant. I don't want to completely write off Gurule. If his durability holds up, if he's able to push a little bit of a pace, if he can corral Coria against the cage, get off on some clinch work, maybe land a takedown or two, maybe he can have some success there, showcasing his cardio as well. But I just feel whenever Coria is able to get back out into distance, he's going to be able to land his combinations. He's going to be able to land with a little bit more sting. And then at the ending of each round, you're going to be like, Coria was the one that did more damage, so we're going to have to give this fight to him. And I think that's ultimately going to be the difference maker here. I would hold off on Coria at chalk. Again, I think Gurule is being slightly overlooked, but he hasn't done the most in the UFC to really make you believe that he's worth a plus 230 shot either. So official prediction will be Coria by decision, but I'd be a little bit skeptical in terms of taking that kind of chalk on him.